What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the OT Unleashed podcast. I am your host, Eric Johnson. I am so incredibly excited today. I got my boy on here, Tyler Southern. What's up, Tyler?
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Yeah, cool. So we're gonna have a really great chat today. Tyler, thank you first of all so much for being on the podcast. I know you got your own podcast, you got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm stoked to dive into all that. But just thank you so much. So like I think that any story has an origin story, right? Any life has an origin story, and you have an
Absolutely.
origin story. And if you're watching this, you probably already gathered that Tyler might be missing something, but I think that we want to know what's happening. So Tyler, you're a young Marine. You come
Ever,
into
ever.
the Marines, piss and vinegar, ready to rock and roll. What's your origin story? Take us through it.
2007, went into the Marines at 17, and immediately was put in 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines as a mortarman.
Yeah.
Got through Iraq scot-free, and then Afghanistan almost 2 months to the day. Well, exactly 2 months to the day. We left March 5th, and I got hit May 5th. I stepped on 10 pounds of homemade explosives, resulting in the immediate amputation of both legs, right arm, and mangled up the left pretty bad. Then went ahead and spent 2.5 years while they rebuilt my arm from the elbow down at Walter Reed, Bethesda, where I
Yeah.
became acquainted with you back when you were
Yeah.
far,
Yeah.
far less bearded.
And great. Okay, wait. So pause. I'm gonna rewind a little bit. When did you go to Iraq? When was the Iraq deployment?
We left July of '08 and got back
Okay.
February of '09.
Okay. So you fresh out of basic Paris Island
Mhm.
2007, you're like, all right, Marine, go fight for your country, right? That's
Yeah,
what they said. So you get to
basically.
Iraq. Any anxiety going into Iraq? A lot of people, I think a lot of people see us come and go from deployments, and they have one of two misconceptions. One, they'll be fine, or two, you're like, firing weapons every single day, and you're in harm's way every single minute, right? So you go to Iraq, anxiety deploying for the first time.
The any anxiety I would have had would have been because of deploying for the first time. But '08, '09, Iraq wasn't much of anything by way of um, volatile.
Right.
And we were right smack in the middle. We knew where we were heading. Plus I was telling my parents constantly that we were doing literally nothing all day. So I started to believing that. But there was a whole bunch of just working with the local police and local army
Yeah.
and training them up. So that was when we were still prepping to get out of there and let them take over. So it's just, yeah.
Gotcha. So, any kind of conflict while you were there? Was it pretty peaceful the whole time?
It was for the most part it was chill. I got my first, we were mostly vehicle patrols,
Yeah.
and I got to do my first ever foot patrol on my 18th birthday, and because it was my birthday, they had me carry the radio cuz it looked like a candle. Uh
I love it. I love it.
that was fun. But we ended up having an IED situation which got our squad combat action ribbons. But it didn't go off properly. They put blasting caps in a 155 wrong.
Uh,
And just the blasting caps showered vehicle 2 with sparks. But vehicle 2 would have been gone, city gone.
uh,
And I was
wow.
driver of vehicle 1.
Wow.
But beyond that, Iraq was,
Pretty tame. So you
it
get
was
back,
more annoying than it was scary.
yeah. So you get back, you said, did you say February '09, July '09, something like that?
February of '09 we got
Okay.
back from Iraq.
And you weren't gone for very long. I mean, you weren't home for very long. When did Afghanistan happen?
We left March 5th of
10.
10.
Okay, so we were in
Doing math.
Afghanistan. So we were in Afghanistan at the same time because I was in up in Logar province, in Fob Shank from all of 2010. We left. I left in 2009 in December, and then came back in January 2011. So we
Mhm.
were there at the same time. So you were in southern Afghanistan, is that right,
Yeah,
or
we were
Kandahar?
yeah,
Or
Salam Bazaar,
okay,
south or Nowzad district, real far south.
Okay.
almost Syria.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. So
Or
you
sorry,
said, yeah, whatever south. Don't
it's
ask
Syria.
me for
Sorry,
geography lessons, but
Syria's
I
north
do
of
know
Iraq.
that we were
I'm
close to China.
disregard.
Actually, we're a couple hours from China, which it's weird that China touches Afghanistan. That was always
Well,
interesting to me.
the Middle East is an Asian. It's
Yeah.
part of Asia as far as
Yeah. Asia.
continents go.
Yeah. Okay, so you said okay, so you get in and you said 2 months after, basically 2 months into deployment, you get hit by this homemade bomb. Okay, let's talk about homemade bombs because I think
Oh
that
yeah.
again, I think there's this misconception that bombs look like round or maybe they're like landmines or something like that you would
hmm
see in like World War II or Vietnam, but that's not the kind of bombs that we see. So when you make a homemade bomb, what kind of stuff goes into a homemade bomb? How do they build these things?
So mine in particular was a yellow jug. That the closest thing that Americans or civilians could link it to would probably be the chemical containers that like pool
Yeah.
chemicals come in.
Yeah, yeah.
They packed it full of aluminum nitrate.
Okay.
But any homemade explosive, there's a bunch of different kinds of mixtures that will make the boom boom. But yeah,
Which
they
we
packed
won't
mine.
we won't we won't talk about how to make a boom boom in this podcast, but
Absolutely
this
not.
is what
This
they
is not
did.
an instruction manual. They just packed aluminum nitrate into a yellow jug and then wired it crudely to a piece of wood
Yeah.
with a connector. So when I stepped on it, it closed the gap and a victim operated pressure plate IED. I have to
Okay.
put I'm no victim, so I had to, as many air quotes as I can put on it.
Yeah. And if you guys aren't familiar with IED actually means improvised explosive device. And
Yes.
if you break that down, it's literally like what can we use to blow something up? And
hmm
so
Don't
people
Google it. You'll
improvise.
end up on lists.
Yeah, and definitely don't Google that. But I mean, they've used all kinds of things. They've used rice cookers, anything that can contain um, objects like bulk type things that during an explosion will shoot out, right? So it's
hmm
the explosive force, but also, there was a lot of interesting things that they would include nails and shrapnel, and, they would include like feces for dirty wounds. Like there was some pretty nasty stuff that happened.
But Afghanistan dirt is as gross as feces. So I mean, they didn't really need to put anything in mine. So I was fortunate in that because yes, that was SOP at one point. Obviously, pack ball bearings and or metal pieces or whatever on top of it so that you're messing everyone up.
Yeah.
We were SOP at the time for them was to maim and then attack when everyone was taking care of me.
Yeah.
But it was set up like a really complex ambush. They just didn't spring it. They weren't ready for us or something. They weren't there.
Okay.
So I got hurt.
Yeah. So you got
And there
hurt
was
and there was no other like
opposition.
conflict. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So
all right, well, let's talk about it. So so in Afghanistan, you lost three, almost 4 out of 4 limbs, and you should have died, right? There's no reason that you should have lived, but we have gotten really good at keeping people alive. How did they save your life? Like, what happened? I mean, I don't. Were you conscious too? Like, I have so many
no,
questions.
so no, so I've been sorry, screws loose. I've been read in by people who are at every stage. But no, I was conscious on the ground, but incoherent.
Yeah,
They got me good was basically my phrase of choice. Um,
it got
but
me good.
that's what they said, and I was like, cool. I wasn't crying for my mom or anything like that. It wasn't an embarrassing quote, but so for I'm the first American triple to survive Afghanistan, anyways. So like
Wow.
it's just um my corpsman, I was his first combat incident, so trial by fire. In the way he says it, the first thing he remembers of any of it was tightening down the fourth tourniquet. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm cool if muscle memory took over and you were handling business. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
You're getting freeze. Life is good. And then the helicopter came in faster than a hiccup. I was 10 minutes blast to bird
That's amazing.
because my squad leader called it in faster than a hiccup.
Yeah.
So one that was en route for torn ligaments in an ankle got rerouted to me. And then
Awesome.
Yeah, in Bastion or Bagram, one of the I went to 2 different Afghanistan hospitals, before on to Landstuhl,
Yeah.
Germany. And in one of them, I wanna say the first one, they did the thoracotomy. They hacked open my chest and clamped my aorta in the middle there, um, and had to get my heart going again,
Yeah.
which is
Wow.
always good times. So, I mean, I did technically I
Die.
flatlined a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I don't stay dead well.
Yeah. Just like your
But yeah.
hat. Yeah. Like SFH, it's a flat line and then there's a pulse. Yeah, that was you. So okay. I'm gonna drop some knowledge on some of our listeners out here. So now Tyler was one of the so he's Tyler was a former Marine, always a Marine, and
Yeah.
he talked about his corpsman saving his life. So one of the things, first thing I want to tell you guys out there, so the Marines don't necessarily have medical assets, right? The Navy typically supports the Marines for their medical assets. So when he's talking
Mhm.
about a corpsman, I'm assuming that was a Navy asset, correct? So,
100%.
the Navy supports the Marines as their kind of first line, immediate response to injury. So corpsman comes up, and the military, maybe a civilian, I don't know, but came up with brand new tourniquets that essentially could save a life very quickly, or cut off the bleeding very quickly, thus saving a ton of lives in Afghanistan, Iraq. We saved a lot of lives, which was not typical of the wars past. You would definitely have died in wars past, right?
I'd have
So
died a few
you,
years earlier.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah,
even in Iraq, I would have died.
yeah,
Like
yeah. That's right. Because it was a real game changer in saving lives just in general. And so the mission of, if you think about echelons of care for medical assets in war, what happens is that you have your corpsman, the first line medic, and then they'll medevac you to the next echelon of care, the second echelon of care, which will typically be like a forward surgical team, or like a combat outpost or something that's smaller, but they have medical assets where the surgeons there can continue to stabilize you till you get to the next echelon of care. And then that would be, like you said, Bagram. And so Bagram would be kind of a more fixed structure, a little bit more of a safe area. And again, they're going to try to get you in a place where you're stable enough to move you to Germany, to Landstuhl.
Mhm.
And so Tyler went through these little stages, and when he gets to Landstuhl, at that point in time, not that you're out of any kind of red zone, but you're pretty stable. The life
There's
saving
no yeah.
measures have happened. There's no combat or conflict that possibly could happen at this point. At this point, it's saving your life, making sure, and then getting you finally to that highest echelon of care, which would be your big medac medicine in America, medical center. So
Mhm.
like for you is Walter Reed, right?
Well, yeah, because it's the premier prosthetics lab in the country.
Right.
People who have burns go to San Antonio.
That
And,
was me.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I know a guy,
yeah,
you and Mike Schlitz immediately come to mind every time.
yeah, yeah,
And then people who want really, really, really horrible care go to Balboa.
yeah. That's right. That's right. Now
People who are just
Balboa.
like,
Okay,
"Please
so he
treat me
says that.
wrong."
So Balboa. So there's three places that do handle amputee care for the military. The premier one is Walter Reed in Bethesda, Maryland. Well, actually, they moved. Wait, they moved.
It is
No,
in Bethesda.
it is Bethesda now.
Yeah, Walter
Um,
Reed at Bethesda.
Yeah, it used to be in DC, and then we moved to
Mhm,
Bethesda. Okay, so and then the other one is the Center for the Intrepid down in San Antonio, Texas. It's a beautiful facility. And then the last one is Balboa out in San Diego, which is also San Diego, correct? Or is it? It's in Southern California somewhere.
I wanna say San Diego for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Because I think it's co-located with a lot of the Navy assets down there. So
San Diego.
yeah, San Diego. So okay, you are now stable-ish. You get to Walter
At
Reed.
Launchstool?
When do you arrive?
Oh,
Well, no, let's get to Walter Reed. When do you arrive at Walter Reed? Do
it was Mother's Day that year. It was
2010.
yeah, May 9th, 4 days and some change until I
Okay.
was back. My family was due to fly to Launchstool. They had tickets. But Launchstool decided I was going to die for sure and got me stable to fly me home so I could die on American soil, which I thought was super cool of them, really.
Yeah,
Because if
for
I'm
sure.
gonna, I'd rather die very close to where my father was born. He was
Yeah.
born in Baltimore. But and so when I got to Bethesda, their whole mission was keep me as comfortable as possible till I die. And then I
Wow.
just didn't, like an
Right.
a-hole.
Oh man, that's awesome. So you get to Bethesda,
Mhm.
and what's your first memory of waking up? What was your first thing you remember?
My mother, actually,
Oh,
they so it was blurry as hell because they put me in a medically induced coma for 2 weeks. I didn't
yeah,
wake up until the 18th, because the sight unit crushed my forehead, and they
yeah,
didn't want, brain swelling and or all that
sure.
good stuff while flying. Um, but they were trying to, "Well, what day is it? What month is it? Who's the president?" And, all this stuff they ask you, and my mom was like, at the foot of the bed, "Tyler, it's your mama." And I kinda, "Hey, mama." Was the first thing I said,
Oh
and
man,
they kinda got out of the way and let her explain to me, "I was in an accident. I ain't got no legs."
it was like that was no accident, Mom. Let me just
Well,
be
yeah, no,
really
they did it
clear.
on purpose, man. I
Yeah.
swear they did.
Okay, so what a cool memory. So believe it or not, my mom was the first thing that I remember. And when I was
Man,
burned, I was in
moms.
launch stool, and they had me in a medically induced coma. And my first memory waking up was it was on my mom's birthday, believe it or not. So I was injured August 12th, and my mom's birthday is August 16th. And so it was a few days later, and I just remember waking up. Actually, I don't remember waking up on August 16th, but that's
Yeah.
what they said I woke up. But I
Yeah.
think a couple days
Drugs.
later, I remember the only way I could talk to them was through a window. Like, cause burns are like infection. Like, it's not like the
Oh,
initial burn
dude.
that takes you. It's the infection, right? So for me, it was a few days later. I'm talking to my mom and my dad, like on the other side of the glass, and I have a phone, like a medical
Yeah.
phone, on my ear. So,
Yeah, like you're in
all right.
jail.
So
'Cause you
yeah.
had to be in a
So
dang bubble.
let me ask you this: like, what did your
Uh,
mom say about this? Was she like, "Holy crap! Like, I thought you were dead. I thought this was it, and now you're talking to me. What's like? Might I keep my son?"
she cheated. I'm her youngest of 3 boys, but she was a nurse for 40 years. So,
Yes.
she had it, and she worked in every department that you can work in as a registered nurse.
Yeah.
So there was obviously the shock of it being her baby. But she was far more prepared than a lot of the other moms who had to go through it. So, I was fortunate in that and I got there the ninth. They had 9 days to like get used to how I looked before I
Yeah.
woke up and get all the
Yeah.
like, oh my God, it's so broken.
Yeah.
And then when I woke up, they were all like, let's go. What's next? Wheelchairs, let's go, legs.
And you're
And
like looking at me. You're like, "I'm so broken."
yeah,
Whoa.
give
Okay.
me a few minutes. Nah,
Yeah.
but it was super. I did it, didn't I? Yeah, I turned her down. Um, she was very chill about it. And again, the drugs were a big part of it as well because I didn't come out, oh, where was me? I looked at,
Right.
she explained, I looked at my arm, I said, that sucks. And then asked if we could watch a movie. And then don't watch Alice in Wonderland while you're really, really, really high because I hate that movie so much now.
Oh my
Like, I
gosh.
can't watch it
What
still
a
to this
trip.
day.
Oh my
14 years
gosh.
later.
Oh gosh. Yeah, like, hey, if you want to ever torture Tyler, if you need to capture him and get information, just jam that on repeat.
Yeah, Taylor Swift and Alice in Wonderland.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so all right, let's go into the rehab process. So you
Mhm.
were there well before me. I was still in Afghanistan until January, and I actually
11.
didn't jump into the mix of amputee care till several months after that in 2011.
Hmm.
Um, so tell me about okay mostly occupational therapists are listening to this and so who was your ot who's the primary ot that you worked with?
Joseph Butkus.
Okay, so Joe. All right, so Joe
Yeah,
is
love that guy.
yeah. So Joe has an insane amount of knowledge about amputee care. He was there. Actually, Joe joined Walter Reed when I was an intern in 2005
Mhm.
at Walter Reed, and he came in. He was the new guy, and then by the time now, like Joe is still there, and he is still doing amputee stuff, right? So this
Does he
guy,
still look like a child?
he actually is married. He's got a kid. Like it's crazy, right?
It was the
So
weird because I thought he was younger than me when I met
yeah, yeah. So
him.
so Tyler gets Joe, who's got the most expansive knowledge of amputee care. He's done this a minute. Um, but we also have a really cool crew there, like Anne Marie, Caitlin.
Mhm.
We got a really cool crew of Max Hammer, if you remember Max.
I
Um,
was there before Anne Marie and Caitlin, actually.
oh wow,
They got there, I wanna say it was Joe and
Sarah Mitch was
Major
there.
Mitch.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are the 2 that I definitely remember in
yeah,
OT
yeah.
specifically, and then,
And who was
they
your
might have
PT?
been in the middle of changeover. Julie.
Julie. Okay, yeah, awesome, awesome. You had a
Castles,
really great team.
Castles.
So now you were there a minute because obviously I was there when you were still kind of doing some of your recovery. At that point, you were pretty well on. But tell me what did you see? What was the difference that you saw between OT and PT? Like what would Joe focus on and what would PT focus on? What was the separation there?
So the first entire year of everything, my wrist wasn't fused yet. I don't have a wrist anymore anyways. They just bolted my hand to my radius. But it just kind of floated in the so that at first there was a lot of making splints because I didn't have the external fixator anymore.
Yeah.
After that got taken out, because I bent one of the dang things. I
Because
appa-
you're Tyler
so
Southern.
well, this is one of the few things I'm kind of embarrassed about, but they put me under every day
Oh, jeez.
for like 22 days to for washouts and all the stuff that was necessary to save my life.
Yeah.
But they were doing a little extra to ensure I was out, kind of thing. They weren't familiar with me. I was on all these drugs, definitely all the pain, but they were kind of overdoing it on accident. So
Yeah.
I was coming out violently.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and I apparently hit people with my X Fix, the big metal brackets that were hanging out of my arm.
Oh,
Apparently, I spit
jeez.
on people. I did a huge apology tour, and they were like, "Bro, that wasn't you." And I'm like, "I appreciate you saying that, but it looked like me."
Yeah.
um, but
S-
sorry, all of Joe's first stuff was making splints
Yeah.
and doing a lot of
Mm,
bending and
soft
stretching,
tissue.
bar
Yeah.
massage.
Yeah.
Man, I haven't thought about this in a long time.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Basically, yeah, I was gonna say, both recovering movement, finding new movement, making
Yeah.
sure I had movement by the
Yeah.
time I could use my hand.
Yeah.
Um, because in the beginning, I couldn't go closer than that. Like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have
Wow.
been able to hold a softball. I
Yeah.
remember the day I got these to touch, and
Oh, wow.
we freaked out. Like, I went straight back to the room. I was like, "Look at
Yeah.
it."
So if you guys are listening on the podcast, Tyler was basically he's got a thumb, an index finger, middle finger, and a small finger, right? And they were
Yeah, kind of.
reconstructed to basically be able to be functional in his hand.
Mhm,
And so he was just showing that he can oppose his middle finger to his thumb, which
mhm.
in the OT
I can
world,
tuck it all
and
the
of
way in
course,
now.
so what's really, yeah, that's amazing actually. So if you're listening, so right now Tyler talked a lot about movement, right? A lot spinting, positioning, movement, and the initial role of an OT in this part is to maintain some of these, and you got to think that at this point Joe is thinking like I need him to use all these things, and it may look like this kind of physical rehabilitation, which part of it is, but in Joe's mind, he's like, I need to, grab a
Mhm.
toothbrush. I need to grab a sandwich, do things, right? Like this left hand is going to be everything to him. And
That's
so
all I
we need
got.
to optimize it, right? Okay, so all right, so that was like one of your okay, so first big victory as far as your upper extremities
Mhm.
go is you have opposition. Now all of a sudden
Yeah.
the world opens up to you.
Mhm.
Okay, so your amputations, your right arm, both of your legs, you have a transhumeral amputation on the right,
Yes, sir.
and both of your legs are transfemoral, correct? Or do you
Yeah, I
have a
got
knee on one?
no, bilateral transfemoral.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he's high on both all those. So now you have tattoos. Did you lose some tattoos that you were disappointed about?
I lost $1,800 on my left calf that had just been completed, and there was no
Oh.
proof it existed because I owed my father money at the time, and I was gonna be like, "Dad, look what I got on post-deployment leave," and my leg didn't make it
Oh.
to
So you
post-deployment
don't have
leave.
pictures of that?
No, and
What? What
it
was
was
it?
because
What was it?
it was a beautiful ode to Florida. I'm
Uh
from Florida,
yeah.
everybody.
Oh yeah.
I had, like, Floridian down, from the ditch to the Achilles,
Yeah.
in, like, like treasure mappy kind of font.
So cool.
And then like a swamp Evergladesy scene with gators and the Florida flag in the background. It was so beautiful. Um,
Oh my
and I
gosh.
went, that was like the third or fourth question I asked when I first woke up, besides is my junk okay? And did I get anyone else hurt and those things? Did anyone find the skin from my left calf?
Yeah.
And they were like, there's nothing the doctors could have done. I'm like, no, I want it treated and pinned like Native
Yeah.
American art
Yeah,
because it cost me a lot of money.
bound a book or something in it. Like I need a book binding of my leather, my skin leather.
Hate in my
Yeah.
heart. But
Okay.
and then a few more got messed up because of surgeries. And I
Yeah.
mess with Dr. Howard about it, but like it's fine.
Yeah. Well, what do you do? So this is funny. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize like that happens, and I've actually seen some surgeons cut around on the lines of certain tattoos so that when they patch it back up, it looks pretty good, or like it's still kind of maintained. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Doc Howard, he was the head of plastic surgery. He took over my arm because the head of orthopedics said we have to cut it off or he'll die. And my mom told him to ingest a satchel of Richards. And he said, okay, when he dies, it's your fault. And left. And head of plastic surgery was like, I got this shit. But he lined my snake back up in one of like
Oh,
that.
that's
Like
amazing.
he's like, we took another hour and freaking lined it all back up for you. I was
That's
like, man,
awesome.
didn't have to
Well,
do
that's
that.
huge
Thank
because
you.
at this point in time, all right, so you are out on this recovery road. It's going to be we're sure that at this point in time you're probably going to live, and now we have to start looking at well, mental health implications are a huge deal, right? So like
Mhm.
you are like, okay, I now have basically, one fourth, less than one fourth, probably one eighth of my moving appendages that can engage in life. Mental health wise, like what's happening in your mind right now? Like so when I met you, you're like probably the most optimistic dude. Like I've always loved your energy. Like I only know that Tyler. But was there a point where you're like, ah, man, I don't know how this is gonna go, and I'm nervous.
There was one day that I got low. But no, I
One
hate
day
to break
since
it to people.
2010.
No, well, everything else about my injuries, everything else was normal adult stuff. If I've had lulls, it's because of normal adult stuff. Normal humaning. It has nothing to do with my injuries ever. But I feel bad because people always ask that, like, "Oh my God, what'd you do? How'd you do it?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's kind of a who I am thing."
Yeah,
But it was 4th of July actually. I had a really amazing. It was one of the first like lucid leg having dreams I remember
yeah,
having,
yeah.
and we were playing sandlot football.
Uh,
I caught the pass and was running, and I scored, and I felt the dirt and the grass in my jeans, and then I woke up and was like, "Shit." And then had surgery that morning. And on the way to surgery, I had a panic attack. It was my first one ever. Let go of some bile into the little tin thing. Had surgery, woke up. They wouldn't let me go see the fireworks after, like that
oh,
evening.
jeez.
So I just decided on July 4th, 2010, that independence will never be mine again. But then on July 5th, I washed my hand of that bullshit and was like, let's go.
Yeah. So one day, so okay, so and this is great. This is great because one, like, you felt it, but at the same time, you don't have a choice. When people talk about resiliency, it's like, oh, you're so resilient. You're like, I don't have a choice. Like I have to move forward, and so I can move forward in a very positive way that can, help others, or I can move forward,
And just
and
make it easier on yourself. Like
yeah,
that's what people I loved it. The inspiring people helped give me more juice to be more me. But
yeah,
yeah, crying in a corner and woe is me, or man, I wish I was still right-handed.
yeah,
20 years I was right-handed. But what now? What kind of
yeah,
wheelchair am I getting? Do they go
yeah.
faster than that? Like, is there
Yeah.
a governor you can take off for
Yes.
me? Like,
Yes.
whatever the next thing is, let's go.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand the concept of dwelling on
Yeah.
yesterday.
All right. So I'm going to talk about some cool OT stuff. So that's a good point. So first of all, let me just say for the students maybe that are listening out there, if you have one finger it's a game changer, just period. If you have opposition, it's massive, because once you lose that hand or that finger, things get very tricky. Holding objects, even like activating your phone, your nose becomes your pointer, and so for Tyler to have a few fingers is really, it's huge. It's a big deal from an occupational therapy mindset headspace. Um, so Tyler, you talked about wheelchairs. I want to talk about a little bit about wheelchairs now. Um, One thing that people don't typically think about is, getting into wheelchairs or mobility from a wheelchair to the floor or to your bed. And you are probably the most agile human that I've ever seen or worked with in that wheelchair space. Matter
Oh,
of fact, I'm gonna pimp your TikTok real quick. But if you
oh
guys aren't
man.
following Tyler on TikTok, is it
McNubs 13.
McNubs? Okay, McNubs 13. Follow him on TikTok, and you're gonna see the most amazing things you've ever seen, and some really funny stuff. He had just posted something about his mobility, getting out of wheelchairs, rolling around, like all the different things. And then, of course, oh my gosh, the one that you just posted, what, like yesterday or 2 days ago, with the girl who's like, "What? Like you're
Yeah,
like that?
she it was
Is that what you
when
got?"
the guy with no calves tries to talk to me. Where's the rest of you?
That's right. That's right. And Tyler's
Like
just sitting there, all disheveled in his chair, kind of like patting down his shirt, and
it's in
just like
Afghanistan, man.
mostly in Afghanistan. Yes. So check out Tyler on his also, his Instagram and his TikTok. Like he's a really great guy to follow. So, but
Yeah, and they're both
wheelchairs.
McNubs 13.
McNubbs 13 on both of those.
Yeah.
So if you okay, so you are a champion of wheelchairs. You have a power chair that you typically use at the house.
Yes.
Yeah, and but you have also tried out some of these other fancy dancy ones. Like you had the kind of Segway chair, right? Or
I
is that what
that
it's
is
called?
my that's like my outdoor chair.
Okay,
When I leave the house, I'm in the Segway chair. It's an Ally chair, or well,
okay.
Ally, ALLY. But it is Segs. You gotta say it real slow. Segs for vets.
Segs for vets.
As yeah, if you say Segs for vets too fast, you're googling the wrong thing.
You'll get
But yeah,
yeah,
yeah, they I think they own the patent, but because I've never seen it anywhere else
yeah,
on this particular one. But yeah, Segway is literally the all the mechanics of
yeah.
it. It's just a Segway wheelchair.
Yeah. So if you guys,
That thing's
just real quick,
amazing.
I'm going to pause you and I want you to talk about it a little bit more and how you feel about it. So if you check out, so Dean Kamen is the inventor of the Segway. If you guys have ridden a Segway, it uses different types of gyroscopes, and it basically will keep you upright. Two wheels, you lean forward, it goes forward. You can turn to the left and the right, all those things. But the chair, tell me how does the chair work? So if you haven't seen this chair, Google it. But if but just tell us how that looks. So it's a two-wheeled chair. There's no casters on it. So
Mm-mm.
how does it work?
So the like you said, forward and backward leaning is how you move it, and then there's a joystick on my left side, which is interchangeable for the other handed folks. But that is left and right.
Yep.
That's turning. And then there is a like e-brake basically by the wheel that
Okay.
will put two legs in the front and two legs in the back will go down so you can hold still if you need to.
Oh, cool, cool.
But the Q6, the Quantum Q6 that I'm in the house has a much bigger seat.
Yeah.
So I'm usually in this because I can't bend over, get stuff off the ground in the Segway wheelchair,
Gotcha.
and do household chores and stuff. Like you're kind of forced to be in one position.
Yeah. Okay.
So too long and it hurts the back. But
Okay.
so when I leave the house, I'm in and it's far skinnier. It can go through most non-ADA doorways.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also much lighter if I need help
Yeah.
getting up a curb or something. People can do it. I can dead man push it up something.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
S
fast too.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen you move around and it's pretty impressive. So let's talk. So you talked about you mentioned the word joystick,
Yeah, yeah.
which is going to lead me to my next piece of conversation. So I do a little work in video games. Oh, you have the access controller there. Yeah, awesome. Um, so
I thought we'd
you
talk about it.
uh, Yes, I love that you have it already prepped. So Tyler is familiar with our organization, Warfighter Engage, because early on, Tyler was actually one of our kind of initial guys when we were trying to set up video games. But I'm going to back up one more time. Tyler, you lose your right hand, dominant hand, and a lot of the elements of your left arm, and you're a gamer. What's your thought about gaming
So for a decade,
initially?
I was stuck on Pokemon, and which is not bad. I love Pokemon, as you can see around
Yep,
me. They're
yep,
everywhere.
yep.
But I was stuck to turn-based games. I couldn't do anything that required extra. On the 3DS, I did beat Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, uh,
Oh man,
with one hand in Afghanistan because
that's
I died
impressive.
a lot, but it was a lot of trying to aim for the right button. But when I got hooked up with Ken Jones at
Yeah,
Warfighter Engaged, the first one I still have it. I'll keep it forever. It's not operational anymore,
yeah,
but it's like a TV tray
yeah,
with the kick switches,
yeah,
all the triggers were kick switches for my nubs, and
yeah,
then yeah, big old arcade buttons for the arm, and then use the controller regular with the hand.
yes,
And getting back to games, holy hell. I wasn't ready. So I closed the file in my head. It wasn't something I yearned for. It wasn't anything that I was worried about. When people
yeah,
brought up getting a custom controller, my head was just like, that's going to be such a complicated process. I don't even want to play that game.
yeah,
And then, yeah, the guys at Stack Up,
yeah,
and they introduced me to Ken, sent pictures of me, and he was like, I got you. And it was at my door a week later. Like I was
yeah,
thinking that I'd have to go to Jersey and
yeah,
freaking get measured and all kinds of stuff
yeah,
before I could just play my video games. But then yeah, I basically fell into I did Kingdom Hearts and all the ones that I loved when I was
yeah,
younger.
yeah,
And then dove into Skyrim really hard.
yeah,
I think I
yeah.
spent like 800 hours on
Oh my
Skyrim
gosh,
after
that
that.
game. Yeah, that's a small.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna
a
say
small
that's
amount of
barely
hours. Yeah,
scratching the surface
yeah.
on Skyrim.
Yeah. Okay, so it's cool because you mentioned Kingdom Hearts. Like my last guest, Zach, who was a burn patient, he also was a Kingdom Hearts guy. So but yeah, that's so cool. Okay, everybody, a lot of people know Ken Jones and I, and our nonprofit Warfighter Engage, and of course we do this. We try to do this for vets as much as we can, but one of the things that we didn't work on was the access controller. And if you guys were watching, if you're watching the video, saw kind of Tyler popped up and showed the access controller. Now, Tyler, you were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were on the team that talked about this. Like you had to sign an NDA and couldn't really talk about it. Tell me
So
about that.
a buddy of mine who worked with Stack Up, who eventually got me hooked up with y'all in the first place, with Warfighter Engaged in the first place, Dave Kraus.
Yeah,
Um, love that one-eyed wonder. He came to me with the concept of working on this prototype, and I was just like, "Oh, cool, a prototype." He didn't tell me anything else, so we're
yeah,
playing, we're goofing, I'm nubbing stuff, we're drawing up pictures on how we can make a thing,
yeah.
and he comes back to me with the actual prototype, and I'm just like, "Oh,
You're like,
okay." So
what?
now
This is a thing? Yeah.
and paperwork. So I'm just like, oh
Oh,
crap. So
right.
I had to sign an NDA. So for 3 years, I was playing on the prototype and logging hours and freaking giving suggestions and drawing up pictures and all that stuff
Cool.
and giving it back to Dave. And yeah, it ended up turning out looking a lot like what we designed in the first
That
place.
is so cool. Yeah. So the access control. So you don't know this. Actually, nobody knows this right now. But I'm headed to England in 2 days for the Game Accessibility Conference, and Sony's going to be there with the access controller. So we'll be able to chat a little bit more about them,
Woo.
about that. But so literally a game changer, pun intended. And so we have the Xbox Adaptive Controller, the Access Controller from Sony, PlayStation, and gaming is a big thing for you. So I'm going to go because we've spent a lot of kind of origin story stuff, but live version 2.0. So you leave Walter Reed, you've got kind of all the tools in place to be independent, and you're in St. Augustine, is that right?
Yes.
You get down to Florida, you're home. Now, you were one of a couple hundred amputees at Walter Reed, and now you're one of one.
No,
In,
well, it's
or a
actually
couple.
funny. Do you remember John Hayes
Oh yeah, yeah.
and Brandon Long?
Really? They're
They're
both there?
they're my two doors down neighbors.
Oh geez. Okay. Well, one of three. Okay.
Yeah, I was
So
to say we tried to change the name of this road to Legless Lane,
that's
and
amazing.
one of the dudes who lived here harpooned it. But
That would have been so amazing.
yeah, daddies on this road don't got legs.
Oh my gosh. So okay, so you get back home. And actually one thing I want to talk about is sex. But we're gonna get back to that. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But you get back home, you're supposed to be independent. The military, the Marines, I'm assuming, is taking care of you financially, hopefully for a minute at least, or the rest of your life, hopefully. And what's your first thought? You get home. What do you want to do? Like, is there like I just want to chill and relax, or like I'm ready to do things?
So at the time, I was married, fresh. We were like a year out, and there was a we wanted to one just get the heck out of the hospital and
Yeah,
stop being part of that culture. I couldn't handle another killing season.
yeah,
2.5 years, I couldn't do it again. I could not do another summer. But so getting out was basically the main thing. It was bad for my soul to be up there and just meeting an infinite number of broken people. But we wanted to sign up for all of the events that were going to send us fun places and do stuff because we knew we were going to have kids. But wanted to juice a lot of the traveling and stuff we could do right after we retired in 2012. And then Damon was born in 2014,
yeah. Okay.
January 1st. So yeah,
And then you have a daughter, correct? Also,
yes, 16, or 2016. So 2 years younger than
2016.
Damon. They're 10 and 8 now.
So, okay, so let's get into this. Let's talk
Mhm.
about sex a little bit. So, and nobody ever really likes to talk about this, but I know you're somebody that's not going to shy away from it. You get blown up. You're probably like, is my stuff still there? Do I still have the capability of enjoying intimacy, sex? Can I get an erection? Things like that. All those questions, everything. Was there anything like you're like, okay, I think I'm good, or were you injured down there at all?
So when I first woke up, due to blast injuries, your balls swell up like a mother. Like,
Okay.
so when I woke up, I had a cantaloupe and or bowling ball
Mm,
between my legs of just balls and a Foley catheter going into a hole in the top of it.
yeah.
Um, and then that was I have pictures on a hard drive actually. Um, and then eventually that swelling went down, and it's just your body's way of protecting the testicles
Yeah.
after a blast injury because
It
it was
wasn't
directly
just
underneath.
it wasn't just full of sperm.
No, yeah, you're so backed up. No, boot camp would have killed me if that was the case. That's
Uh,
cartoony and funny though. Um, but no, so it all went down, and eventually it was 6 weeks, I think, before I got the Foley out in the first place. So like,
wow. Wait, did
uh,
you think that you lost your penis because it was because of the inflammation? It was like not there, or it was
I
like
couldn't
hidden.
I couldn't move the sheet myself due to the arm anyways. So by
Yeah.
the time I saw it, it was because we were changing sheets. So there was someone right there to answer the questions.
Okay. Good.
And again, my mother, so when I asked injuries and she listed everything off, that was one of the first things I asked because I always wanted to be a father anyways.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I always being a father was a big part of who I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that would have been a real gut punch. I probably would have been far less of the jovial dude if I
Yeah.
was a eunuch.
Yeah.
Um, but it took 4 months before old boy was like, "I got something to tell you,
Yeah.
urgent. Timmy's stuck
Yeah.
in a well."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh hey, welcome back."
Yeah.
And then again, I couldn't touch the damn thing for yeah. Eventually, I had a lovely assistant or help
Yeah.
and that was the main thing. I was like, let's see if we can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, they're an OT type situation, but
Yeah.
she didn't work for the hospital. Not trying to get
That's
any further.
okay.
But yeah, I was that
Okay.
was it happened early enough that I
Good.
didn't have to worry about the concept of I can't feel it no more. It don't work no more. It
Yeah.
won't sneeze at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, there
Good.
and then same thing with the whole finding somebody. Me and Ashley
Yeah.
started dating.
Yeah.
My now ex-wife, we started
Yeah.
dating in September of 2010.
Okay. I didn't
So
realize. I thought you and Ashley had always been together, or like had been together prior to the injury. So this is cool. So wait, was Ashley the girl that?
no,
Oh, sorry.
she
Sorry. That's okay. I guess she's ex-wife now, so it's not
well,
as.
no, it's all good either way.
Yeah.
This
I
is
want to talk about that
it was
too, but
not the initial
yeah,
tester,
trial. Yeah. But that's probably awesome. Like
beta
what a
tester.
confidence boost that you can do that. So so let me just so if you have your traditional four limbs, you have sex in very kind of drawn out ways. Now you probably had to, and you don't have to go into details, but you had to find different probably ways to have sex. Girl on top, maybe you probably weren't able to get up on your residual limbs yet, but maybe you tried. You're like, hey, let me try to
So
do some
it
different
all comes
things.
it all comes down to you and your partner
Sure.
basically willing to try shit.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, initially my hips weren't great at having the weight of someone riding me.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, we got to be flat, changing up what's going on
Yeah.
and communication. And
Sure.
we're all adults. Don't take
Yeah.
this negatively. I'm broken, obviously, but and there were, what positions work, what like where the ones I shine in more, the ones where I'm just doing it for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, you end up,
Cool.
yeah, it comes down to testing the waters and seeing what's
Yeah.
what.
Cool. Cool. Now, so you and so that's great, and I appreciate you sharing that. A lot of OTs are going to really appreciate the transparency. You and Ashley get married, and I have never seen a separation divorce in a more healthy way. Matter of fact, you seem to be so great with her new husband. You guys celebrate the kids together. Um, how do you what advice do you have for like couples that do end up getting a divorce, they have kids, and I mean I was the same way. I was married when I knew you, and I
Mhm.
had a divorce, and I married Stella,
And now you're
and
winning at
we're
life. Oh, sorry.
yeah, and honestly, like, it has
Flames
been
up.
such a healthy as best case scenarios you can for our kids. Like, what was your so for lack of a better term, decide to split ways,
Mhm.
and you say, but we want to make sure life is great for the kids, let's be great co-parents. Is that kind of your approach?
So we, from the beginning, we always said that if something happened, if we just decided it wasn't anymore, that we would never talk shit in front of the kids about each other, and we'd always be on the same team when it came to stuff that was to do with the kids. Even if we didn't like, even if we despised each other at a certain point, we would always put it all down for the kids. Because at no point is it their fault or their responsibility that something didn't work out. But I'm fortunate in that we just decided we were better off as friends, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And instead of forcing a relationship that a romantic one and being platonic roommates, we just
Yeah.
figured the kids would just like they'd notice all of the subtle things or we'd grow to resent each other. And there was just a whole bunch of the fear of ruining the kids over it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we decided that and we did do the platonic roommate game for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, she moved out, met Mike. Mike is the shit. She has excellent taste in men,
Of
if
course.
I do say so
Yeah,
myself.
2 for 2.
Um,
Yeah.
she didn't pick some Kyle who I
Yeah.
had to be worried about being around the kids and stuff
Sure.
or treating her like shit in front of the kids.
Right.
No, this dude is so deeply in love with my ex-wife. It
That's
is
great.
insane.
That's great.
And she is too. Like it's so the kids get to see her happy and loved properly.
Yeah.
Um, and the
And
woman I'm dating now, my girlfriend, we're about to show them some stuff, that same vibe on this side.
yeah, it's so
It
great.
took me a little while to catch up there, but we just good relationships are what kids need.
Yeah, you're right.
If you got 100 uncles or aunts that aren't actually blood related, but they're so close, you're calling them family.
Yeah.
Like that's only going to be good for the kids in the grand
Yeah.
scheme. But the advice, sorry, the original question was advice.
Yeah.
Swallow your pride. That's the main thing.
There you go.
Guys in general, just like I can't see the woman that was my woman with another man. And I'm just like, please,
Yeah.
like, I want the kids to see
Yeah.
her happy. Like, I
Yeah.
only want that. Like,
Yeah. Like
because
I think
God
that
forbid.
if I yeah, same thing. Like with me, it was like I want the kids to have a great mom who's happy, who has found joy, and there's no like we were the same way. We were like, let's. I never wanted to talk negatively. Like
Mm-mm.
the any beef that I had was between her and that's all it needed to be. And I wanted to encourage them, and and there was times where things are a little bit different in her house than my house, but at the same time, it's like, well, we do things a little bit differently, and eventually, if you support each other, they'll see that support happen throughout,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not typical,
Yeah.
but it's
And
beautiful.
and we have a group text message called the Village, and we
Yeah.
just, hey, this is going on over here. Could you do your best to keep an eye on it
Yes.
while they're at your house,
Yeah.
please?
Or I
So we'll
limited
look on.
screens, or they're on restriction.
Yeah, yeah,
Could
yeah.
you
Like,
do that?
yeah,
Yes, we got it. I got it. Yeah.
yeah.
So
We're always with that, and me and her we didn't butt heads ever on parenting and how to parent.
yeah.
So that it's just because we have two different home bases now, they're still getting the same version of their mother
Yeah.
as far as being a mother goes. Like
Yeah.
she didn't have some epiphany and treats them differently now.
Yeah.
She's always put them first, just like I do. She's always led with love and whatever's going to be best for them in the grand scheme. Doesn't
Yeah.
need to be their friend, is willing to be the warden or the
Yeah.
freaking or
Yeah.
the executioner or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I am too. I was just
Yeah.
like, look, I if I do good, we'll be friends in your 20s.
Yeah, exactly. That's like I have kids. I have a 22-year-old, 19-year-old, and I love them so much. Like we're like
Yeah,
best friends, and we're like, oh my gosh, hey, the new Star Wars is coming out. Like, let's go do a watch party, or stuff like that.
yeah.
So,
Means
all
you
right.
crushed it. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. I did it. Okay, so Tyler, I really want to talk about SFH, and
Cool.
this is something that's very meaningful to me. You guys started this. Tell me about SFH. Tell me what it is. Tell me what you guys are, the message you're trying to send, and a little bit about that.
All right. So we basically we are a clothing and apparel brand for profit for the record, but 50%, 50% of our net proceeds will always go to a charity. Depending on what event we're at, or if we do a co-brand on a shirt, 50% will always go to a charity that we have thoroughly vetted. But we champion anyone who's proud of the fight that they have fought, because
Yeah,
despite all who've tried, I am still effing here. And of
I,
course,
I
I
like
have
that you. I
yeah,
love I love that you centered yourself after No, say it.
I'm
What do
trying to
we
be
hear?
still fucking here.
That's right. That's right.
And it ended up being inspired by me, and then they asked if I'd be involved, and giddy to do it. But we're not just for veterans by any stretch of the imagination. Abuse survivors, addiction survivors, cancer survivors, anyone. Shit, if you just got a hold of your health after losing handles on it, anyone who's proud of the fight that they have fought,
It's
still fucking
amazing.
here.
I love it, dude. I'm
And
emotional about it. Like I have, like when I first saw you guys drop this line, I was like, wow, this is powerful and this is great. So, hey, you guys, I'm gonna drop links to SFH for you guys and Tyler, all of Tyler's socials and everything. You can see them all in the links below. But thank you for doing that. Is there is there a way that people can donate without buying apparel? Like, is there other ways to do that?
I don't know. We do not have a donate button on the website yet, but at events, if you see us at events,
Okay,
there you can do that. But the shirts are freaking spectacular too. We spent a
dude.
long time making sure we had the good material
Yeah.
and all the right stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, there's not currently a donate button.
Okay. Well, you guys go buy like a box of shirts because you are supporting some amazing humans and really honestly, like Tyler said, it's past veterans and stuff. So, thanks for sharing about that. All right, I'm excited because we are going to have to wrap up here in a little bit. But this is my favorite section. It's the quick fire queries,
Oh,
and this part of the conversation, I ask you a bunch of questions. You do it best you can with them, and you're going to just jam through them quickly. All right, are you ready for it?
sure.
10 questions. All right. What's the most unusual job you've ever had?
I had to mop the rain
Mop the
while in the Marine
rain.
Corps.
I was gonna say it had to be in the Marines.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. We had a similar one where we had to turn the rocks over because they were getting too dark on one side.
yeah,
You
you
know.
flip them over. Well,
Yeah.
I went from McDonald's to the Marine Corps, and then I was a retired dad. So
Yes.
like,
Marine Corps is always going
I
to
don't
be
have
the
a
most
lot of
unusual.
employment history.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. Okay. So, what number two amazing show that you've recently binge watched, or movie, TV show, something that you'd recommend for our audience?
Oh, I rewatched so much stuff. Ted Lasso. If no one
Oh,
has watched Ted Lasso yet, watch Ted Lasso. Holy crap! It's one
yeah.
of the best and well written shows I've seen in a long
Yeah.
time.
It is so great. Yeah. Highly
Well
recommend.
acted as hell
Yeah.
too. Everyone crushes it.
Yeah. It's so good. Like the character building on that show is just like
Yeah, you care
amazing.
about the outcome
Eh,
of like
the
19
bad
different
guys.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
like and everybody. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you give a shit about what happens to literally everybody who's one of the
Yeah.
main people in that show.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. Um, and, we've started watching Lost again. Well, Stella's never seen Lost, so I was like, hey, I'm here for the ride. It's a
I'm
long
going
ride.
back through the Orville right now.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
All right. What's the last book you've read? You read?
I'm halfway through the first Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, cool. How do you liking it?
I I'm not great at turning pages and sitting still for a long time. So it's been in chunks, but I'm loving it.
Good.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle knew what he was doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus,
Like
I
if
love
you,
every iteration of Sherlock Holmes. I think
yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch did it best.
Oh yes.
Benefactor Cumbersnatch.
Yeah.
I think
Spock.
he did the best.
Oh wait, no, he wasn't
No,
Spock. He was
dude, he was
Khan.
Khan.
Yeah.
His
Sorry.
Khan.
Sorry.
He doesn't do anything wrong as far as acting goes, so we don't need to go
Yeah.
there.
No, it's okay. Hey, listen, I'm a fanboy of all Star. Like, I like all the iterations of Star Trek. I know a lot of people hate it on the new stuff, but I still like that new stuff. Have you been watching like
So,
Picard and Strange New
dude,
Worlds and all that? Oh, dude.
I want to check them out, but my take on both of those on all of that is the older Star Wars is better than the new Star Wars, and the newer Star Trek is better than the older Star Trek.
That's actually really that's a really good
Is my
take.
opinion on it. I love the original three and parts of the prequel trilogy, but the newer ones lost me a lot.
Yeah.
Even though I love Adam Driver, that motivated me. I love
Yeah.
him.
He's a
Um,
he's a
but
great he did a great job with Kylo Ren. You know, the best you could do with that character. But yeah. Okay. We
yeah,
got to keep
sorry,
going.
go,
All right.
go.
All right. So this is a fun one. What fictional world would you want to live in for a month?
Pokemon.
Yes. Hey, do you
Like
play Pokemon Go, by the way? I don't know if you
I
play
did for a very long time,
Yeah.
but when they stopped making the like at this point years now, but when you couldn't go in the car and actually do it, and
Oh.
I was never driving.
Yep.
Like even as a passenger, you couldn't say I'm not the driver,
Yeah.
and it would just like disable the game, and that took a lot
Yeah.
of the fun out of it for me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So there's been a lot of issues with accessibility with Pokemon Go specifically.
Yeah.
But all right, cool. All right,
So
so the Pokemon worlds, I love that. I love that. Who's your favorite Pokemon? That's not on the list, but
Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur. Okay, yeah, there he is. I'm a Machop guy, and
All
then
right.
and Legendary, I'm a big Rayquaza fan. So you know.
Oh, legendaries. Entei
Oh, Entei, yeah. Yeah, he's got a
or
cool shiny.
Zapdos.
Oh, Zapdos, yeah. I love it. I love it. All right. What's your favorite song or jam that you love at the moment?
My all-time favorite song hasn't changed for well over a decade. Ireland by Garth Brooks.
Oh, okay. I'm making
If you've
a
never heard it,
playlist.
I vote check it out.
I'm making
It's
a OT Unleashed playlist of everybody's songs. So Ireland,
okay.
I got you.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
a like a war song. It's fucking awesome.
Oh, cool,
It
cool.
gets me hyped up.
Yeah, I love it. Is it like more of an upbeat or kind of like a slow
It's
ride?
Well, it's a story of guys who are going to start a fight in the morning and probably going to lose because they're wildly outnumbered. So they say fuck it and attack them in the middle of the night while they're sleeping.
Perfect.
And
And
it's just
I
and it's
don't,
about
no
going
spoilers. You
home.
have to go listen to it.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Oh
what
yeah, that's the whole
happens?
damn song. Well, because when you're Irish and you die, you go home to the land of Era,
Yeah, yeah,
and so that's the whole thing is going home to Ireland
yeah.
because they're about to die in combat. It's
Wow.
fucking. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I got
Oh
to listen
man.
to it when we're done.
Yeah. It's on. It's going to be on the playlist. All right. What's one app on your phone that you can't live without?
Probably TikTok right now.
TikTok. Yeah. Yeah. You're killing it over there. Yeah.
I'm
Seriously,
trying.
if you are on TikTok, if you're not on TikTok, you really need to follow Tyler. And he does share them over there on Facebook. And does it go to Instagram? I don't know.
I'm so bad about keeping up with Instagram. I'm trying, guys.
Yeah.
But also, reels can't be as long as I just realized that this morning
Oh
that reels
yeah.
can't be a certain length. And then if I just do it as a regular post, it doesn't go as far. I'm learning
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, TikTok. That's where
Yeah.
everything's at. And it's unfiltered AF.
Yes. All right. TikTok is where it's at. Okay. What's your go-to lazy dinner?
I saute chicken in like Cajun spices and then throw it in butter noodles and call it Cajun chicken pasta.
I love that you said this is a lazy dinner. I'm like,
Never
like
peanut butter and jelly.
Travis Mills would be like Hot Pocket.
Well, so I don't do a lot of microwave stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
if the
That's cool.
laziest,
I love
it
that
would end
you
up being peanut butter and jelly.
yeah, PB&J, yeah. All right, all right. But for the record, for the podcast, sautéing chicken with
Yeah,
Cajun spices, jam it into some noodles, and call
and just
that a
call it
Cajun.
Cajun chicken
Yeah.
pasta. My grandma rolling over in her grave, but
Uh,
it
you know
tastes
what
good.
though? It's probably baller. Yeah. All right. Okay. This will be a fun one for you. Number 8. What is the stupidest dare that you've ever agreed to?
I tried to jump in my wheelchair a mulch thing to get to the other parking lot instead of go way down there and take the sidewalk. And the wheelchair stayed in the one parking lot while I
Oh,
ended up in the other parking lot.
oh my
And
gosh, that's amazing.
I bloodied up my nubs. There's a
Uh,
many a time that I wish everyone around me had GoPros because it'd be exciting to see some of the dumb shit that has happened.
uh, just like your life on camera. Yeah. All right. All right. So you're about to fly somewhere. How early do you arrive to the airport?
Hour before the flight's supposed to go, give or
Okay.
take.
Don't have too
Like,
much issues with security or anything?
well, no, because they're gonna pat me down every way you spin it, and because the wheelchair, I get to the front of the line at least quickly, and I can fly in the Segway chair. They
Cool.
take it under the plane, so I mean, which is a new development for me. Flying used to be a nightmare, and we'd go 2 hours ahead of time for
Yeah.
sure. But with hand controls on the van, I don't have to pay for parking, so I take my van and leave it at the airport, and then yeah, so about an hour before boarding is not the flight taking off before boarding
Cool.
is the
So,
plan, especially Jacksonville. Jacksonville's quick.
wait, just a quick aside. You're driving independently, is that right? Or no?
Oh shit! I mean, yeah,
Hand
yes,
controls. Yeah.
yeah. I drive with hand controls. And hell, I would say I live alone and help raise two kids half the time,
It's
one
amazing.
handed. So
All
I'm
right.
independent as fuck.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Last one. What's the biggest misconception about you that the majority of people get wrong?
hmm. I wear everything on my sleeve.
Yeah.
I guess the most common would be people who assume it's a show and that I'm just a wildly happy show,
Yeah.
and like behind closed doors I'm a sad sack, because I've had to prove it to a few different people along the way that I am
Yeah.
like my squad leader had a big problem for a long time. I
Yeah.
had to hang out with him. We had to go to Sturgis. I was with him for almost 2 weeks straight, and he was like, okay, I get it.
You're like, "Yeah, you're the same guy. I got it. Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah.
So it ends up
That's
being
awesome.
kind of a positive thing. I have to
Yeah.
convince people that I'm really like this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ever since I've known you, you've been the exact same dude. So that's all I know.
Yeah.
All right. This is going to be our last segment, and we're going to have to sign off. But the Sage Stage. This is the last thing we're going to discuss. But I want you to leave some like sage advice for OT practitioners, maybe some students out there, the community, just in general. In your eyes, like what could help us be better for our patients? How could we be better for, people moving forward?
So with OT and PT, beyond knowing your job and knowing it inside and out, I would say listen to the patient, because there was a few problems along the way with the OT or the PT had a plan that either I wasn't privy to or I didn't sign off on. And like
Cool.
they're working towards a goal that I wasn't working towards. So more or less listening to your patient and or putting a plan together with their goals in mind.
Well,
Because that was always the one that turned me off was like you're gonna do this and you're gonna get rid of the wheelchair and you're never gonna look at it again. And I'm like, fuck you. The plan is like the plan at the time was walk all day and then be in the wheelchair at night. But now I haven't worn legs in a long time. So
yeah.
never getting rid
Wow.
of the wheelchair.
Well, that's incredible advice. And honestly, we try to talk about this quite a bit. Like we say like occupations as ends and means, and occupations being the things that you like to do. And if you work on that during your therapy sessions, you'll have better outcomes. And so being able to focus on the client's goals and for the OT students out there, this all comes with a really great occupational profile, understanding the client, and who they are, where they want to be, and then revisiting that. It doesn't always have to be like, okay, I know everything on day one. It could be like, hey, you know what? You're starting to make some progress, and is there now new things that we want to give a go? And so
I love
so
that.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a quarterly check in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's important. I remember, like, I've had so many conversations with different clients where later on it's like, hey, look, I'm good with, putting my clothes on now. Like, can we like
Oh
climb a
yeah.
mountain?
I
You
can
know?
build Legos really well. Can we do anything else,
Yes.
please?
Yeah, yeah. You're like, I've mastered that. Let's move on to something.
All you've done
So,
is poison me against Legos for the rest of my life.
uh, oh my gosh. I feel like maybe Joe should send you like a box of like new Legos like every year for Christmas. Like, this is just a reminder, a gift from the old stuff. So, well, Tyler,
I'd give them straight to Mike and Ashley, and they would be Landon's.
there you
They would
go.
be my nephew's stuff for sure.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, Tyler, we got to go. And I want to thank you personally. Thank you so much. You've been such a great guest. Thank you for your vulnerability, your transparency. We've learned so much in this podcast. And I'm really looking forward to following your adventures. You've always been such
Yeah.
a cool guy, and you do great things. So thank you for your service to our veterans, and humanity. You've been such a great friend, great guest. So,
Well, thank
um,
you for having me, and thank you for your service, Doctor Major Doctor Doctor
yeah,
Major.
Major Doctor. I don't know, whatever you want to
Thank you.
say. Yeah, that's crazy. It's still weird to say Dr.
Doctor sounds
Johnson.
cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Dr.
Doctor
Johnson.
Johnson,
Yeah.
Doctor Long John. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. We've already broken down that wall. It's fine.
Hey, man.
All right. Well, you guys, it's time to say goodbye. And I just want to encourage you to keep exploring, keep dreaming, and continue to unleash the extraordinary in the ordinary. Thank you for joining us on the OT Unleashed podcast, where we want to encourage you to engage, to cultivate, and to unleash. All right, y'all. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later.